Deep in the Louisiana bayous, where water and land blur into one endless shadow, there are islands that should not exist. Small rises of earth hidden among black water and twisted cypress trees. Places where the air feels thick. Where the fog moves with purpose. And where the night never feels empty. On these islands, long before modern roads and cities, people built shrines. Some for protection. Some for forgiveness. Some for things they were afraid to name. Candles burned here beneath hanging moss. Offerings were left beside still water. And prayers were whispered to spirits believed to live between this world and the next. But many of these shrines were abandoned after tragedy. After disappearances. After rituals that went wrong. Now, boaters report seeing flickering lights deep in the swamp where no one lives. Hearing chanting drift across the water. And spotting figures standing silently beside crumbling altars as the mist rolls in. Tonight, we drift into the heart of the bayou to uncover the most haunted bayou island shrines in Louisiana. 20 forgotten places where faith, fear, and something ancient still linger beneath the moss and moonlight. If your boat engine died in the middle of the bayou and you saw candlelight glowing from an island shrine nearby, would you paddle closer for help, or would you stay where you are and hope the darkness passes you by? Slow your breathing. The water is listening. Hello, my dear friend. I am truly grateful that you are here with me tonight. Before we begin, allow yourself to settle in. Let your shoulders relax. Let the outside world drift away like fog across still water. Louisiana's bayous are unlike anywhere else. They are alive. They breathe. They remember. For centuries, people lived among these waters, guided by tradition, belief, and deep respect for unseen forces. Island shrines were built on small patches of solid ground, places believed to be spiritually powerful. Some were meant to honor ancestors. Some to protect villages from sickness. Some to contain spirits that were never meant to wander freely. But over time, floods came. Communities moved on. And the shrines were left behind. Wood rotted. Altars sank. Offerings dissolved into the swamp. Yet many claim the spirits never left. Fishermen speak of drums beating beneath the water at night. Hunters see figures watching from islands that vanish by morning. And locals refuse to approach certain shrines after sunset, no matter how calm the water looks. Tonight, I will guide you through 20 of the most haunted bayou island shrines in Louisiana. Each one wrapped in fog, folklore, and restless energy. Each one wrapped in fog, folklore, and restless energy. Each one wrapped in fog, folklore, and restless energy. And locals refuse to approach certain shrines after sunset, no matter how calm the water looks. Tonight, I will guide you through 20 of the most haunted bayou island shrines in Louisiana. Each one wrapped in fog, folklore, and restless energy. Each one wrapped in fog, folklore, and restless energy. Tonight, I will guide you through 20 of the most haunted bayou island shrines in Louisiana. Each one wrapped in fog, folklore, and restless energy. And before we push off into the darkness, let me ask you something. If you found an old shrine hidden on a bayou island, covered in candles that looked recently lit, would curiosity pull you closer? Or would fear convince you to leave immediately? The island shrine of Blackwater Bend sits barely above the surface of the river, a low stone structure surrounded by slow-moving water. During the day, it appears fragile and exposed, as if the river might reclaim it at any moment. Moss clings to its base. Water laps constantly against its worn steps. Reaching the shrine requires careful timing. When the river is calm, a narrow stretch of stones emerges just long enough to cross. During higher water, the shrine becomes an island again, isolated and silent, visible only as a dark shape rising from the bend where the current slows. Long ago, this stretch of river was feared. Blackwater Bend curves sharply, hiding shifting depths and powerful undertows. Before modern crossings existed, traders and villagers relied on small boats and shallow fords. During one season of relentless rain, the river rose faster than anyone expected. The flood came at night. Water spilled over its banks without warning, sweeping through nearby settlements and low fields. Boats broke free. Homes collapsed. People were carried into the current before they could escape. By morning, the river had taken many. Bodies were recovered slowly over the following weeks, found caught in reeds, pressed against stone, or never found at all. The bend gained its name from the silt and debris left behind, darkened by floodwater and loss. In the aftermath, survivors spoke of unrest. They said the river no longer sounded the same. Nights felt heavy. Dreams were filled with movement and pressure, as if water still surged through sleeping minds. Elders decided the bend needed calming. The shrine was built using stone salvaged from damaged homes and riverbanks. It was placed deliberately low, close to the water, meant not to challenge the river but to acknowledge it. Candles were lit there each evening. Simple offerings were left. Not in fear, but in recognition. The shrine became a place of quiet routine, tended carefully by those who remembered the flood. Over time, the village moved farther from the river. New routes formed. The shrine remained, standing alone as years passed. Fewer people visited, but the structure endured, weathered and patient. Then the candles began to relight themselves. Visitors reported arriving at the shrine after sunset to find extinguished candles burning again. The flames were small and steady, untouched by wind or damp air. No smoke suggested recent lighting. But reports continued, even on nights when no one had visited the bend. Candles that had burned down completely were found relit, their wicks blackened but glowing once more. No one ever saw them ignite. The flames were simply there, as if they had never gone out. At night, shadows appeared around the shrine. They formed near the base of the structure, stretching across stone and water in shapes that did not match any standing figure. The shadows gathered quietly, deepening as the night grew darker. Some of them knelt. Their outlines bent low, heads lowered, hands suggested by shape rather than detail. There was no sound. No footsteps. No splashing. The river flowed past uninterrupted, its surface smooth and dark beneath the stars. Those who watched from the shore felt an intense stillness. The air near the bend seemed thicker, pressing gently against the chest. Breathing slowed naturally, as if the space itself encouraged quiet. The shadows never crossed the water. They remained close to the shrine, fixed to that narrow stretch of stone barely above the surface. When observers shifted position, the shadows did not react. As dawn approached, they faded. The first light softened their edges until they blended back into the riverbank and stone. By morning, nothing remained but the shrine and unlit candles. Yet the candles would burn again the following night. Attempts to remove them failed. Candles taken away were replaced by others, appearing without explanation. Even when the shrine was cleared completely, small flames returned, hovering low, illuminating the stone just enough to be seen from the shore. The river never disturbed them. During storms, waves crashed around the shrine, soaking stone and steps. When the water receded, the candles were still burning, their flames unchanged. Locals offered quiet explanations. They believed the shrine was doing what it was built to do. Calming what had never fully settled. The shadows, they said, were not threatening. They were patient. Waiting. kneeling in acknowledgement rather than demand. The shrine offered a place for that motion to pause. Researchers found no physical cause. There were no fuel sources for the flames. No heat signatures to explain ignition. Shadows appeared without bodies or obstructions. The phenomenon resisted measurement. Standing on the shrine at night was discouraged. Those who tried reported a deep pull toward stillness, an overwhelming urge to kneel as well. The sensation faded once they stepped away, leaving behind confusion and lingering calm. Animals avoided the bend after dark. Fish shifted deeper. Birds did not roost nearby. Even insects were quieter near the shrine, leaving the water unnaturally smooth. During the day, Blackwater Bend appears ordinary again. The shrine sits low and silent. Candles are cold and dark. Shadows behave normally. The river flows as it always has. Yet the memory of night lingers. Those who have seen the flames relight themselves or watched shadows kneel where no one stands carry the experience with them long after leaving. The shrine remains untended but active. No one claims responsibility. No one tries to dismantle it. The bend is respected, left to its own rhythm. At night, the river darkens. Candles glow once more. Shadows gather quietly, lowering themselves in stillness, acknowledging something older than memory and deeper than water. The island shrine of Blackwater Bend remains where it was placed, holding space between what was lost and what continues to move beneath the Rivera's calm exterior. Reminding those who pass that some places remember, and some acts of remembrance never truly end. Mossvale Shrine lies hidden behind thick cypress trees where land and water blend into one another. The ground there is soft and dark, layered with fallen needles and moss that never seems to dry. Tall trunks rise close together, their roots twisting into shallow pools that reflect very little light. Even during the day, the area feels dim and enclosed. Finding the shrine is not easy. There is no marked path leading toward it. Visitors reach the place only by moving slowly through the trees, guided by memory, instinct, or quiet directions passed along by those who have already been there. The forest grows denser with every step, sound fading as branches close in overhead. The water appears before the shrine does. A wide, still pool stretches between the trees, its surface broken only by drifting leaves and occasional ripples with no clear cause. The water is dark, almost opaque, hiding whatever lies beneath. Cypress knees rise from it like uneven pillars, coated in moss and shadow. Mossvale Shrine rests at the edge of that water. It is small and weathered, built from stone stacked carefully without mortar. Time has softened its edges, and moss covers much of its surface, blending it into the surrounding forest. From a distance, it looks like part of the land itself, easily overlooked. The air around the shrine feels different. It is cooler and heavier, carrying the scent of damp earth and standing water. Insects are fewer there. Birds avoid the area, keeping to higher branches farther back in the trees. The forest feels watchful, as if aware of attention. Visitors often hear the chanting before they see the shrine clearly. At first, it sounds like wind moving across water, low and rhythmic. As one draws closer, the sound separates into voices. Multiple tones overlap, rising and falling in a steady cadence. The language is unfamiliar. The voices do not come from the shrine. They seem to rise directly from the water. Leaning closer causes the voices to grow slightly louder, though the water itself remains still. Looking beneath the surface reveals nothing. The pool is too dark to see into, even with light. No movement disturbs it. No bubbles rise. Yet the chanting continues, steady and controlled, as if carried by the water itself. Those who circle the pool notice something unsettling. The direction of the sound shifts subtly, always seeming to come from directly ahead. No matter where one stands, the chanting aligns with position, maintaining the illusion that the voices are rising from the water nearest to the listener. The shrine remains silent. No symbols are carved into its stone. No offerings rest at its base. It does not respond to attention or interaction. It stands as a marker rather than a source. Visitors report feeling drawn toward the water. The chanting carries a calm quality, neither urgent nor threatening. Those who resist the urge describe a growing pressure. The sound becomes more noticeable, more present. The forest feels closer, the air heavier. Remaining too long causes discomfort, a sense of imbalance that encourages retreat. The chanting never grows louder than a low murmur. It does not overwhelm. It persists patiently, as if unconcerned with whether it is heard or understood. It continues even when visitors step back, fading only with distance. Recording devices capture very little. Audio playback reveals faint tones that resemble water movement rather than voices. The structure of the chanting, so clear in person, dissolves into indistinct noise when recorded. Local knowledge about Moss Vale Shrine is scarce. No official records describe its construction or purpose. They suggest the water itself carries memory, repeating sounds impressed into it long ago. Others believe the shrine marks a place where the boundary between land and water is thinner than elsewhere. No one agrees on meaning. What is consistent is the experience. The unfamiliar language. The way the voices rise from the pool rather than the air. The sense that understanding is neither required nor encouraged. At dusk, the chanting feels closer. Light fades quickly beneath the cypress canopy. And shadows deepen around the water. The voices seem to gather, their rhythm more pronounced. As the forest grows quiet, leaving the area brings gradual relief. The chanting softens with each step away, dissolving back into the natural sounds of the swamp. The forest breathes again. Looking back reveals only trees and water. The shrine blends into shadow. The pool reflects nothing. No sound follows beyond the edge of the thick cypress growth. Visitors often carry the rhythm with them. Long after leaving, some notice the cadence returning in quiet moments, a memory rather than a sound. The forest protects it through density and silence. The water guards it through depth and darkness. Nothing marks the place as sacred except the way it feels to stand there. Those who find it rarely return often. They speak of the chanting with uncertainty, describing it not as something heard, but something experienced. A presence that does not demand attention, yet does not disappear. The voices continue to rise from the water. They speak in a language no visitor understands, repeating patterns older than the trees around them. The shrine listens without response, and the forest holds its breath, allowing the sound to exist exactly as it is. Quiet. Unfamiliar. Patient. Waiting for no one, and yet never truly alone. Widow Root lies just offshore, a narrow island wrapped in low fog and slow-moving water. From the mainland, it appears quiet and unremarkable, a stretch of stone and soil shaped by tides and time. Reeds line its edges. Trees grow sparse toward the center, where the land rises slightly above the surrounding water. Long before it was abandoned, Widow Root served a specific purpose. Communities from the nearby coast traveled there to mourn. The island was considered separate from daily life, a place where grief could exist without interruption. At the center of the island stood a simple stone altar. It was not elaborate. A flat slab supported by stacked rock, positioned where wind passed freely but sound carried poorly. The altar faced the open water, allowing mourners to look outward rather than back toward home. Women led the rituals. They wore dark dresses and veils, garments reserved only for this purpose. Their role was to stand witness to loss, to embody mourning so others could release it. They remained near the altar for hours, sometimes days, returning again and again until grief softened. No chanting. No raised voices. Only stillness, slow movement, and long pauses between gestures. When the rituals ended, the women departed last, leaving the altar empty and the island silent once more. Over time, the practices faded. Customs changed. The altar fell into disuse. Boats stopped landing at Widow Root. Nature reclaimed the paths, and the island became a place rarely visited, known more by name than by memory. The first modern sightings occurred decades later. Fishermen passing nearby reported seeing figures on the island at dawn or dusk. From a distance, they appeared as women standing near the stone altar, their dresses dark against pale fog. At first, these were dismissed as shadows or trees. But the descriptions grew consistent. The figures always stood upright. They did not move or gesture. Their attention appeared focused inward, toward the altar rather than the water. Visitors who landed on the island described a heavy stillness. Sound behaved strangely there. Waves seemed muted. Footsteps felt distant, as if the ground absorbed vibration. The air felt cooler near the center, even on warm days. Approaching the altar revealed the figures. Women in dark dresses stood in a loose circle, spaced evenly, their forms clear but lacking fine detail. Their faces were indistinct, as if viewed through thin fabric or mist. Those who stepped closer experienced a sudden emptiness. They did not walk away or dissolve gradually. They simply ceased to be present, leaving only the stone altar and open ground. No footprints remained. The soil showed no disturbance. Grass stood upright. The island returned to stillness, as if nothing had occurred. This pattern repeated again and again. Sightings occurred most often during quiet hours, when light was low and the island was neither fully lit nor fully dark. The figures always appeared near the altar, never elsewhere on the island. They never crossed the shoreline. Boats anchored nearby sometimes observed the women from the water, but no figure was ever seen near the edge. The presence seemed bound to the ritual space itself. Those who observed from a distance felt a strong reluctance to interrupt. The sight carried weight, not fear. The women did not appear threatening. Their stillness suggested purpose rather than warning. Many described the feeling as private, as though witnessing something not meant to be shared. Standing still allowed them to remain visible longer, though never indefinitely. The moment intention shifted toward engagement, the island returned to emptiness. Researchers offered practical explanations. Light distortion over water. Fog creating layered silhouettes. The mind imposing meaning on shape and shadow. Local belief holds that the rituals never fully ended. That the island absorbed the act of mourning so completely it continues to perform it. The women appear not as individuals, but as roles, repeating the posture and presence once required. Some believe the figures are guardians of grief. They stand where sorrow was once permitted to exist openly, ensuring the space remains separate from daily life. Approaching disrupts that boundary, causing the figures to withdraw. Visitors who linger report subtle sensations. A pressure behind the eyes. A feeling of being observed without judgment. Emotions surface unexpectedly, often connected to personal loss. The effect fades quickly once leaving the island. No one has reported harm. The figures do not pursue or communicate. They do not beckon or resist. Their presence is passive, defined by stillness and distance. At night, the island is empty. No lights appear. No movement is seen. The women do not manifest in darkness, as if the rituals require visibility to exist at all. At full daylight, sightings are rare. Bright sun strips the island of ambiguity. The altar looks like stone. Trees look like trees. The land reveals nothing unusual. It is the space between that matters. Dawn and dusk create the conditions where memory and environment overlap. In that narrow window, Widow Root becomes what it once was. Boats still pass the island. Most travelers do not notice anything beyond fog and stone. Those who know the stories sometimes look more closely, slowing their passage, watching the center of the island as light changes. Occasionally, they see them. Women in dark dresses standing near the altar, unmoving, focused inward. The moment approach is attempted, the figures vanish. Widow Root remains uninhabited. No signs mark the altar. No barriers restrict access. The island does not announce its history. It simply reveals it when conditions align. They do not follow. They do not fade into legend. They remain tied to a place where grief once had form and permission. Standing where mourning was given shape. Appearing only to be seen. And disappearing the moment someone tries to step too close. Snakejaw Island rises from dark water like a jagged tooth, its shoreline sharp and uneven, carved by years of relentless current. From a distance, the island looks unwelcoming, a low mass of stone and twisted vegetation surrounded by water that never seems fully calm. The channel around it is deeper than the surrounding waters, its surface often darker, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. The island has always carried a warning in its name. Long before charts were drawn, boaters avoided the area, steering wide around the sharp rocks and unpredictable currents. Stories passed between fishing families spoke of sudden drags on nets, of oars catching on nothing, of boats drifting off course without wind or tide to explain it. Eventually, a shrine was built. It stands near the highest point of Snakejaw Island, a simple stone structure reinforced with driftwood and offerings left by generations of visitors. The structure reinforced with driftwood and offerings left by generations of visitors. The shrine faces the water, positioned deliberately toward the deepest channel. The builders believed the shrine would ward off evil. They carved symbols into the stone, each meant to hold meaning rather than decoration. Shells, rope, and polished stones were placed carefully around its base. Nothing about the shrine feels ornamental. It feels functional, like a boundary drawn in physical form. For years, the ritual worked. Boats passed more safely. Nets returned intact. The water around the island grew quieter, or at least more predictable. Offerings continued, left quietly by those who relied on the channel and respected its danger. Then visits became less frequent. Trade routes changed. New technology reduced reliance on the old waters. The shrine remained, but fewer people came to tend it. The island grew overgrown, its paths fading beneath moss and low brush. Those who visit now come out of curiosity. Small boats approach cautiously, engines idling low. From the water, the shrine is barely visible, a pale shape among dark stone and tangled green. Even on calm days, the channel feels unsettled, as if something below is shifting constantly. Visitors often report the same sensation. A feeling of being watched, not from the island, but from beneath the water itself. It begins as a subtle awareness, a sense that attention is focused upward, following movement above the surface. The water does not reveal anything. It remains dark and opaque, reflecting little. Yet ripples form without warning. Small circles spread outward near boats, appearing too localized to be caused by current or wind. They rise and fade quickly, then reappear somewhere else. Sometimes, multiple ripples form at once. They surround the boat at varying distances, as if something beneath is moving in slow arcs. The ripples appear and vanish silently. Not a pull, but pressure, like water pushing upward rather than yielding. The sensation fades when hands are withdrawn, leaving behind a lingering chill that does not match the temperature of the air. Approaching the island intensifies the effect. The closer boats drift to shore, the more frequent the ripples become. Anchoring near Snakejaw Island is difficult. Lines that should hold steady loosen inexplicably. Anchors drag across stone that should provide grip. Many choose to remain adrift rather than risk being pulled closer than intended. Those who step onto the island often feel relief at first. The sensation of being watched lessens on land. The ground feels solid. Sound behaves normally again. Wind moves freely among the low trees. Yet even there, unease lingers, strongest when facing the water. The shrine itself feels heavy with attention. Standing before it produces a quiet pressure behind the eyes, a sense of importance without explanation. Offerings left by others remain undisturbed, weathered but intact. No vandalism marks the site, as if even those who do not believe hesitate to interfere. Some visitors choose to leave offerings of their own. Stones. Coins. Pieces of rope. The act feels instinctive rather than planned. Many describe an urge to acknowledge the place, even if they do not understand why. Researchers have attempted to explain the phenomenon. As boats pull away, ripples follow longer than before. The sensation of being watched intensifies briefly, peaking as the island recedes into the distance. Only after passing a certain point does the water return to normal. They point to underwater currents shaped by the island's jagged base. They note temperature differences between layers of water that could create localized movement. These explanations account for some irregularities, but not the consistent reports of pressure and observation. What stands out most is the timing. Ripples often appear when boats stop moving, as if stillness draws attention. Movement seems to reduce the effect, though it never eliminates it entirely near the island. Local tradition holds a different explanation. According to older stories, the shrine was not built to banish what lived beneath Snakejaw Island, but to remind it of limits. The offerings were not bribes, but signals, a way of marking the boundary between water and land. When the offering stopped, the boundary weakened. The watching sensation, they say, is not new. It has always been there. What changed is how clearly it is felt now that fewer people acknowledge it. Night visits are rare. Those who attempt them often turn back quickly. In low light, the water around Snakejaw Island grows almost black, swallowing reflection entirely. Ripples are harder to see but easier to feel, tapping gently against the hull in irregular patterns. Some report hearing sound beneath the water. Not voices, but low, shifting tones that vibrate through the boat rather than the air. The sound fades as quickly as it appears, leaving behind silence that feels deeper than before. No one has reported seeing anything break the surface. Whatever draws attention from below does not rise. It remains unseen, content to observe and disturb the water rather than reveal itself. Snakejaw Island remains uninhabited. The shrine still stands, weathered but upright, facing the channel as it always has. Moss creeps across its stones. Boats drift carefully. Engines hum low. At Snakejaw Island, the shrine endures as a quiet reminder. That something below the water noticed when people stopped paying attention. That being watched does not require being seen. And that some places do not need to act openly to make their presence known, content instead to stir the surface gently, surrounding visitors with silent ripples, letting them feel the weight of unseen attention long after they have turned away from the island and headed back toward open water. Cypress Heart Shrine rests deep within a grove where cypress trees grow so densely that sunlight barely reaches the forest floor. The ground is soft and damp, covered in fallen needles and moss that glows faintly in filtered light. The shrine itself is modest. A small stone platform sits at the center of the grove, partially overgrown with vegetation. Wooden masks hang from nearby trees, their surfaces darkened by age and exposure. The grove feels different from ordinary forest. Wind passes silently through the trunks. Insects are fewer. Birds rarely enter the area. The silence presses in, making every movement and sound feel amplified. Visitors often notice the masks first. They are suspended at varying heights, tied with frayed cords to low branches and limbs. Each mask seems positioned deliberately, facing inward toward the shrine, or outward along the paths that lead to it. The eyes seem to follow visitors. Turning slowly from one mask to another creates the unsettling impression that each observes movement independently. No matter where one stands, at least one pair of eyes feels directed at them. The effect grows stronger with distance from the path, as the forest closes in. The shrine was abandoned suddenly. Historical records note that several priests who tended to Cypress Heart Shrine disappeared without explanation. Villagers spoke of unusual sounds in the grove and shadows that seemed to move independently. Following those events, the shrine was left to the forest, and no organized maintenance continued. The masks remain. No one has taken them down. No evidence shows that any new masks were added after abandonment. Weather has darkened the wood, softened edges, and caused some to tilt or swing slightly in the wind, but they remain in place, eyes turned as if still vigilant. Visitors report a strong sense of being observed. Not just by the masks, but by the grove itself. Every movement is felt more keenly. Each step on needles or moss seems louder. Breathing feels noticeable, echoing slightly against the stillness of the trees. Shadows in the grove are unusual. They stretch and shift independently of the sun. Branches move with wind, but forms appear and dissolve in ways that do not correspond to visible sources. Some describe glimpses of figures in peripheral vision, always fleeting, never clearly defined. The masks seem to reinforce the effect. Even when sunlight illuminates the grove, the eyes appear aware. Visitors describe a sensation of alignment, as if the grove and masks together track presence and movement. The feeling is persistent, subtle, and unnerving. The air is cool and still. Footsteps near the platform are muffled by moss and soil, making silence nearly absolute. Sound behaves strangely near the shrine. Voices are absorbed or distorted. Whispers seem to come from distances unrelated to their source. Wind moves unevenly, carrying faint sounds across the grove. Those who linger feel time differently. Minutes may pass unnoticed. The grove imposes its rhythm on the visitor, slowing movement and thought. The eyes of the masks, the stillness of the trees, and the slight movements of shadow create a focus that is difficult to resist. The masks do not respond physically. They remain static in position, swinging only with the wind. Yet the sensation of awareness persists, independent of mechanical cause. Local legend suggests purpose. It is said the masks were placed to observe, to record, and to remind. Some believe they watch not for punishment but for vigilance, maintaining attention where human guardians can no longer exist. Others suggest the priests intended them as protection, a way to mark the sacred space even in absence. No one fully understands the shrine. Its history is fragmented. Accounts vary, and the details of disappearance remain unexplained. What is certain is that the grove, the masks, and the platform exist in deliberate arrangement. Visitors cannot deny the impression of intentional design and persistent awareness. Leaving the grove brings relief. As distance increases, the feeling of observation diminishes. Birds and insects return to the surrounding forest. Shadows normalize. The masks grow less imposing with every step away. Looking back, the shrine blends into trees. From the path, it appears smaller, darker, yet unchanged. The masks hang silently, eyes fixed, awaiting the next visitor who ventures far enough to notice. Cypress Heart Shrine remains in quiet vigilance. It is overgrown, isolated, and untouched. Yet every mask, every hollow gaze, and every shadow contributes to a presence that persists beyond human tending. Those who enter are aware they are not alone, even when no one is seen, and they leave carrying the memory of eyes that continue to watch from the trees. Bone Drift Island lies isolated in a stretch of dark water, its shores littered with driftwood and jagged rocks. At the center of the island stands a broken altar, built long ago from stacked stone and weathered by wind and salt. Around the altar, animal bones are scattered across the ground, remnants of rituals long abandoned but never fully forgotten. The island feels cut off from the world, as if tides and time conspire to preserve its stillness. For years, people avoided the place. Stories circulated about its eerie presence. Fishermen spoke of shadows moving along the shore. Explorers mentioned a sense of being watched, though no living creature appeared. The altar and surrounding bones became the focus of fascination and fear, a marker of something beyond ordinary understanding. Those who ventured to the island noticed strange patterns. Bones would be arranged haphazardly during the day, lying as if left by chance. By night, however, positions seemed to change. Shifts were subtle at first, a femur turned slightly, a skull tilted in a new direction. Observers would wake to find that the scattered pieces now formed lines and clusters that suggested intention, patterns that were unfamiliar and impossible to recall having been made. No explanation accounted for it. No animals large enough to move the bones were seen. The tides did not reach the altar during high water. No wind could lift and place heavy bones into aligned positions. Yet morning after morning revealed new arrangements, deliberate in appearance, distinct from random scattering. The patterns sometimes resembled symbols. Simple shapes, repeating lines, circles. Occasionally, arrangements suggested more complex figures, curves and angles that seemed too precise to occur naturally. Each morning, the patterns differed from the last, leaving those who observed them questioning whether the island was changing or perception was playing tricks. Visitors felt watched. Even during daylight, the altar and surrounding bones seemed to carry presence. The air around the altar was heavier. Sound seemed muted, absorbed by the island. Moving across the ground created unease, as if unseen eyes followed each step. Shadows shifted in subtle ways that did not match the movement of the sun. Those who attempted to document the changes struggled. Photographs and notes captured some differences, but each morning revealed variations that were impossible to track fully. Measurements taken during the day would no longer align with arrangements seen the following morning. The bones appeared to reset themselves in patterns unremembered by anyone. The island seemed to respond to human attention. The closer someone approached the altar, the more precise the patterns became. Staying too long created tension, a subtle pressure in the chest, as if the bones themselves were aware of observation. Moving away caused a loosening of alignment, clusters dispersing and shifting again under circumstances that could not be explained. Explorers who spent nights on the island reported sound. Soft scraping and clinking, faint movements just beyond sight. Not enough to identify as footsteps or voices, but persistent, rhythmic, as if something worked in silence, unseen. Some believe the island preserves memory. That the altar and bones contain echoes of long-past rituals, repeating gestures of unknown participants. Each arrangement is a fragment of intention left behind, replayed through the night without intervention. Human perception cannot record or fully comprehend the movement, only sense its persistence. Others think the bones are guided by wind, tide, or forces beyond the natural. The weight and placement of the bones suggest intelligence, yet no being is ever observed completing the arrangement. Time becomes distorted on the island. Observers report losing track of hours. Night can feel like day, and the moon can appear to linger in one place for far longer than expected. Each observation of the bones seems to last both an instant and a long stretch. Stretching perception of time as the mind struggles to reconcile motion with stillness. The altar itself is the center of change. Bones closest to the stone structure shift first. Those farther away move gradually, as if influenced by an unseen current emanating from the altar. The patterns converge and disperse around it, never forming a permanent structure, always returning to disorder by morning. No one has entered the island and left unaffected. Visitors describe a lingering sense of unease that lasts for days. Dreams echo the shapes and arrangements seen at the altar. Awareness of unseen movement persists even after leaving. The island embeds itself in memory, refusing to be forgotten. Despite the strangeness, no one is harmed. The bones move. The patterns change. Presence is felt. Yet the island has not taken life in modern memory. Its influence is subtle, psychological, perceptual, tied to observation rather than direct threat. Bone Drift Island remains uninhabited. There are no permanent structures beyond the broken altar. The shoreline is jagged, unwelcoming. Boats must navigate carefully. The tides rise unpredictably, further discouraging casual visits. Still, curiosity draws people. Researchers, explorers, and the curious approach the shore, hoping to witness the nightly changes. They keep distance, knowing the altar's immediate vicinity seems to amplify the sense of being watched and the precision of bone movement. By dawn, patterns dissolve. The bones retain new positions, new alignments that cannot be recalled by the previous observer. Each day begins fresh, the island returning to stillness, yet always ready to repeat the cycle. The altar, the bones, and the shifting arrangements persist. An island alive with memory, motion, and mystery. Bone Drift Island waits quietly, shifting slowly through night and shadow. Revealing its secrets only to those who come to watch and leave again. Uncertain of what they have truly seen. Still Moon lies hidden within a quiet stretch of river. Its presence known only to those who travel the water under the glow of a full moon. By day, boaters report seeing nothing. The surface is flat and unbroken, mist rising lightly from the current, concealing what might lie beneath. Rocks and currents behave normally, leaving the mind to question whether the island exists at all. When the moon rises full and clear, the landscape changes. A low fog drifts across the river, thick and luminous in silver light. Shapes begin to emerge from the haze. Dark outlines rise from the water, forming land where none seemed to exist moments before. Trees, short and twisted, appear along the banks. Stones line a narrow shore. In the center of the newly revealed isle, a shrine stands. The shrine is small but distinct. Built of dark stone, weathered by unknown years, it appears deliberate and cared for. Candles sit in holders along its steps, their flames glowing softly in the fog. The light is steady, warm, and unshakable. No wind seems to affect it. No presence moves the flames. Boaters report being drawn closer. The shimmer of candlelight on the fog acts as a lure. Shadows of trees sway gently, distorting in the moonlight. Even experienced navigators feel uncertain, their eyes drawn to the shrine before reason. Some slow their boats instinctively, allowing the river to carry them nearer without resistance. The island disappears during daylight. Travelers who attempt to reach Still Moon Isle before sunset see nothing but open water. Attempts to mark its location fail. Even GPS devices sometimes fail to register a landmass. The river behaves as though nothing rests in that space. Observers note only ripples and mist, giving no clue to what reappears at night. Candles relight themselves nightly. Those who camp nearby report seeing flames ignite without hands. Candles left unlit by morning find soft flames flickering by moonrise. No footsteps, no evidence of entry, and yet the light grows steadily. Its glow seems to pulse with the fog, reflecting off the river and illuminating shapes just enough to make the shrine visible. Visitors feel a presence. The fog carries weight, as if the air itself is attentive. Sounds are muted, water laps softly, birds remain silent, and even the wind feels restrained. Observers report an almost tactile sensation of being watched, but never threatened. The shrine is active without motion, alive in subtle ways. Shadows gather around the structure. They form along the steps and beneath trees, kneeling or bending without figures to inhabit them. Shapes remain indistinct, yet their positions are unmistakable. No one sees faces. No sound accompanies their movements. They remain still until the fog fades, dissolving back into the night as if they were never there. The phenomenon repeats monthly. Every full moon, the same patterns appear. Candles light. Shadows kneel. The island manifests where water had been flat and empty. Those who attempt to leave before the moon reaches its peak may find the island fading, fog thickening, and distance stretching unnaturally, creating a sense of disorientation. Attempts to reach the shrine during partial moons fail. Observers see hints of mist gathering or faint shapes forming, but the island never solidifies. The effect is precise, tied to the lunar cycle. Timing is essential. Only when the moon reaches full brilliance does Still Moon Isle reveal itself fully. The shrine appears to be ancient. Stone is dark and worn, edges smoothed by time. Candles, though present, show no evidence of wear or fuel replenishment. No trail leads to the shrine. Locals suggest it was built to calm restless spirits after flooding that claimed lives long ago. Some believe the candles honor those lost, their light guiding souls across the water. Those who visit feel compelled to stay. The air is heavy with quiet expectation. Sight and sound focus on the shrine. Time seems distorted. A single hour can feel like minutes or an entire night. The effect is subtle, yet undeniable, creating tension even in the absence of danger. Animals avoid the area at night. Birds do not land nearby. Fish seem to disappear beneath the surface. The water is unusually still, disturbed only by the occasional ripple that appears and vanishes without source. By dawn, Still Moon Isle vanishes again. The fog thins. The stone of the shrine blends into gray mist. Candles extinguish themselves. Shadows dissipate entirely. Boats pass over what now appears as ordinary river, the location unmarked and indistinguishable from miles of waterway. Those who remain through the night report exhaustion and disorientation. The island is both present and absent. It offers beauty and mystery, ritual and repetition. Candles and shadows persist in memory, even when the land itself cannot be found. Still Moon Isle waits quietly for the next full moon. Every cycle, it returns to the river, a place out of time, bridging the world of the living with that which lies beneath the water and the fog. Bridging the world of the living with that which lies beneath the water and the fog. Candles glow softly, shadows kneel where no one stands, and the island exists just long enough to remind anyone watching that some places appear only when the night and moon allow, holding secrets that vanish with the morning light. The shrine of whispering water sits on a small rise surrounded by a shallow pool, though most of its base has been swallowed by rising water over the years. Stone steps lead down to the edge, half submerged, moss-covered and slick. The shrine itself is simple, built of carved stone and timber, weathered by decades of wind and rain, yet still standing, defying the encroaching water. Visitors who approach notice the water first. It is quiet, almost unnaturally still. Ripples form and fade slowly, as if the surface moves with its own will. Fish sometimes break the calm with brief flashes, but mostly the water waits, a reflective mirror of sky and overhanging trees. Prayers spoken here echo differently. The effect is subtle at first. A word uttered aloud returns slightly altered, softer or stretched in tone, a reflection of the sound rather than its repetition. A longer phrase bends as it comes back, shaping itself into an unfamiliar cadence, sometimes forming sounds that suggest meaning beyond the original prayer. Many feel that the echoes answer them. Not with voices, not with words. Rather with rhythm, tone, and space. A whispered plea for guidance returns with emphasis on certain syllables, almost as if the water listens and responds to the intention behind the words. Those who linger report a growing awareness. The air feels charged. Movements in the surrounding pool catch attention even when nothing is visible. Ripples appear along the edges of the shrine and travel outward in patterns that seem too deliberate to be caused by wind alone. Each wave is precise, forming arcs and circles that converge near visitors before dissipating. The shrine itself seems to focus attention. Stepping onto the stone platform, one feels the weight of centuries of observance. Each carved symbol, each worn corner of the wood, carries memory. Small offerings left over time, stones, beads, or water bowls, sit undisturbed, yet their presence feels alive. Visitors often report a sensation of being watched. Not with hostility, but with attentiveness. Even when alone, a subtle awareness persists. Shadows in the trees bend slightly toward the shrine. The air becomes heavier with stillness, compelling careful movement and quiet speech. The water responds to human presence. Footsteps near the edge sometimes create ripples before contact. Small waves advance toward visitors, not in a random pattern, but seeming to track, to observe, as if the liquid surface itself possesses consciousness. Some report feeling pressure beneath their feet when standing close to shallow areas, a subtle tug rather than a pull, enough to suggest presence. Prayers offered while standing in the water carry a different effect. The echo is stronger, more defined. Tone shifts are more pronounced. Many feel an urge to remain in place longer than intended, as if the water encourages stillness, reflection, or attentiveness. Time seems altered near the shrine, minutes stretching as visitors focus on the altered echoes of their own voices. Repeated visits reveal patterns. Certain phrases or tones produce consistent responses. A call for protection seems to make the ripples tighten near the speaker, as if drawing attention. Researchers have studied the area. Acoustic measurements show unusual reflection patterns, enhanced by the combination of stone, timber, and water. Water temperature and density contribute to sound bending, yet these factors alone cannot account for the precise, responsive quality described by observers. The experience remains difficult to replicate in controlled conditions. Some believe the shrine is attuned to intent. They suggest the water remembers focus and emotion, shaping echoes in accordance with human feeling rather than sound alone. The shrine, in this view, is not a passive site but a conduit, a place where intention becomes audible. Night brings a heightened effect. The moon casts light across the surface, revealing ripples and patterns invisible during the day. Shadows move subtly in reflection, suggesting figures or forms beyond the water itself. Movement in the pool seems independent, yet deliberate, responding to sound and motion above. Those who stay overnight describe profound quiet. The water stills completely, holding attention. Sleep is uneasy, as if the mind continues to perceive the water's subtle responses. Dreams are vivid and slow, with images of ripples converging and spreading endlessly, a mirror of the conscious experience. The shrine remains intact despite encroaching water. Stone steps erode slowly, timber ages and darkens, but the structure resists collapse. Visitors carefully step from the submerged approach, guided by awareness of the surface and the precise location of each step. The shrine feels preserved, protected by the attention it demands from both water and people. Offerings continue to accumulate. Even when visitors leave without formal intent, small objects are found on the platform the next day, as if deposited by others who understand the place. The shrine holds memory and action, sustaining both sight and ritual over decades. The water is not malevolent. It does not lash or pull, but observes and responds. Presence is acknowledged with subtle movement, echo, and stillness. Those who come seeking connection often leave with a sense of having been heard, though the response is enigmatic, never literal. At Whispering Water, the boundary between sound and meaning blurs. Prayers transform as they return. Ripples trace shapes, reflecting intention rather than form. Shadows bend toward the shrine, and stillness itself carries presence. Visitors leave changed, aware that the water holds more than reflection, that something unseen answers even without words. The shrine remains a place of quiet power. Nearly submerged, preserved by water and reverence, it continues to receive visitors who approach with respect. Each word spoken, each ripple that forms, becomes part of the ongoing conversation between those above and the unseen below. A dialogue shaped by intention, echo, and the patient memory of water that listens. Dead Lantern now lies in the middle of a slow river bend, its shores rocky and treacherous. Low cliffs rise abruptly from the water, and scattered driftwood clogs the shallow areas around the island. From a distance, it looks quiet and unassuming, yet locals have long warned travelers of its dangers. The river there behaves differently, currents twisting and surging unexpectedly against the natural flow, and the air often carries a damp, heavy stillness. The island earned its name many years ago. Boaters reported seeing lanterns floating near its shores, small points of light bobbing on the water. But witnesses soon realized the lanterns moved in ways that defied expectation. They traveled upstream against the current, drifting steadily toward the rocky banks of the island. A single lantern glows faintly in the darkness, reflected in ripples on the water. Its light appears distant, almost unreachable, yet it draws attention. As it moves, it maintains a deliberate path, cutting through the water without hesitation, ignoring the pull of the current. Boaters who follow the lights report unease. The lanterns seem purposeful, leading craft closer to hazards. The lanterns seem purposeful, leading craft closer to hazards. Rocks hidden beneath the water's surface, fallen branches, and sudden shallows all lie in the path. Boats must maneuver carefully, yet the light's allure is strong. Many feel compelled to follow, even when caution dictates otherwise. The lanterns appear without source. No hands are seen to hold them. No boat carries them. When observers approach too closely, the lights flicker, hesitate, and then retreat slightly, maintaining a safe distance while still advancing against the current. Groups of lanterns sometimes appear. Several lights drift together, moving in formation as if guided by a single intent. Their paths converge near the island, circling it slowly before dispersing upstream again. The effect is mesmerizing, drawing eyes and attention away from safe navigation. Those who resist are not untouched. Even when boaters avoid following, the presence of the light seems to shift the water around them. Currents pull unusually, winds gust in sudden bursts, and a sense of being observed presses lightly across the shoulders. The effect is subtle, yet undeniable. Stories passed down from riverfolk describe repeated encounters over multiple generations. Lanterns have been seen in all seasons, in summer warmth and winter chill. They appear during calm nights and fog-laden evenings, always moving upstream, always approaching the island. Researchers and observers have attempted to explain it. They suggest trapped air in old lanterns, reflections from distant lights, or shifting currents that catch floating objects. None of these explanations fully account for the purposeful motion or the timing that coincides so consistently with the Islanda's location. The island itself remains unchanged. Rocks, cliffs, and driftwood create a consistent hazard. Trees lean at sharp angles along the shore, and the ground is uneven and slippery. No structures remain on the island, yet the lanterns return year after year, as if anchored to the place rather than any human presence. Boaters report additional phenomena. Shadows along the shoreline sometimes appear detached from trees or rocks. Movement in the water seems to suggest figures observing from just beneath the surface. Nothing rises fully, nothing approaches, yet the sense of awareness persists. The river behaves differently near the island. Currents that seem predictable elsewhere shift without warning. Vessels drift subtly even when engines are engaged or oars row steadily. The water is deeper in some areas, shallower in others, and rocks remain hidden just beneath the surface. These conditions make following the lights especially dangerous. Attempts to mark or remove the lanterns have failed. When taken from the water, lanterns vanish or reappear near the island hours later. Those who try to tether them find ropes snapped or floats missing entirely. The effect reinforces the idea that the phenomenon is not bound to ordinary physics or human intervention. Some vessels have avoided wrecks because the lanterns drew attention to rocks before collision. Others have drifted perilously close, narrowly avoiding disaster. The river and its light seem to operate on a balance of caution and allure, teaching respect for the environment in a way that feels deliberate. Watching the lanterns move, hearing the water shift strangely, and feeling the pull of the current produces heightened awareness. Every ripple and reflection becomes significant. Travelers report a strange focus, as if the island and its lights demand careful attention. The island remains uninhabited. No buildings, no docks, no signs of human maintenance exist. The lanterns, the currents, and the rocks create a space that is simultaneously still and active, a place both dangerous and compelling. Dead Lantern Isle continues to draw attention. Each full night, each fog-laden evening, lanterns rise against the flow of the river. They move deliberately, consistently, guiding eyes and boats to the Islanda's shores while remaining beyond grasp. The mystery persists. No source has been confirmed. No purpose fully explained. The lights, the shifting currents, and the island itself create a tableau that captivates, warns, and confounds all who encounter it. Dead Lantern Isle remains a place of caution and fascination. Lanterns float against the current, leading observers toward danger, marking the water with quiet intent. The island waits, timeless, anchored in the river and in memory, reminding all who pass that some places are guided by forces beyond comprehension and that the simplest lights can carry the most profound warning. Bloodroot Shrine rests in a clearing surrounded by dense forest where sunlight filters through thick leaves and scattered beams. The ground is uneven, covered in roots and fallen branches, and the air is heavy with the scent of moss and damp soil. Approaching the shrine requires careful footing, as the path narrows and disappears beneath low growth. The shrine itself is simple but striking. A flat stone platform rests at its center, worn smooth by time and weather. Red stains cover its surface, vivid against the gray stone, and remain despite rain, sun, and years of decay. No explanation for their permanence exists, yet every visitor notices them immediately. The forest around the shrine is unusually quiet. Birdsong is absent. Insects are fewer. Even the wind seems hesitant, moving slowly through the trees, barely disturbing leaves. The clearing feels deliberately enclosed, separated from the normal rhythm of the forest. Visitors often feel uneasy before entering. The red stains are impossible to ignore, drawing attention even from a distance. Approaching the stone, the air grows heavier, the atmosphere dense and still. Some hikers report a sudden queasiness, a discomfort that begins in the stomach and spreads slowly through the body. The nausea is accompanied by sound. A heartbeat, steady and deep, seems to rise from the shrine itself. It is not aligned with the visitor's pulse but exists independently, audible and insistent. The rhythm fills the clearing, echoing faintly from the surrounding trees, emphasizing isolation and presence. No visible source for the heartbeat exists. The platform and surrounding stone show no signs of movement or vibration. The effect is entirely perceptual, felt rather than explained by physics. Those present often stop walking, standing frozen as awareness heightens. Red stains appear unchanged. Closer inspection reveals their texture is unremarkable. There is no pooling, no drying edges, no indication of liquid beyond the surface coloration. Weather and time have affected the stone elsewhere, but the stains remain vivid, immune to natural processes. The effect intensifies with proximity. Standing at the edge of the platform amplifies both nausea and perception of the heartbeat. Some visitors feel pressure in the chest, a weight that seems to synchronize with the sound. Attempts to interact with the shrine fail. Touching the stone produces no reaction. Moving objects around the platform does not alter the red stains. Walking in a circle or pacing along the edge does not change the heartbeat or the sensation of pressure. Observation alone is enough to trigger the effects. No physical entity is ever seen. There are no figures, shadows, or signs of movement. The heartbeat and nausea occur without visual confirmation of a source. Visitors describe a compulsion to leave. The sensation builds with time spent near the shrine. Remaining too long increases discomfort and amplifies the perception of being watched or guided by unseen forces. Most choose to retreat, stepping back along the path until normal sensation returns. Normal sensation returns. Sound recordings capture little. Audio devices pick up faint ambient forest noise but fail to record the heartbeat or any associated sound. Playback reduces the experience to ordinary wind and distant rustling, leaving the phenomena perceptual and personal. Historical accounts are sparse. The shrine appears in older maps and records, often described as a site of reverence. Legends mention offerings and rituals, but details are fragmented and inconsistent. No record explains the red stains or the physiological reactions visitors experience. Those familiar with the area offer caution. Local guides advise against lingering near the platform. They speak of the heartbeat, nausea, and persistent awareness as phenomena not to be challenged. Visitors are encouraged to observe from a distance and avoid contact whenever possible. The Shrinia's effect persists regardless of conditions. Rain, sun, and seasonal changes alter the clearing and forest, but the red stains remain vivid. The heartbeat occurs in sunlight and shadow. Nausea appears in cold mornings or warm afternoons. Time has little impact on the Shrinia's influence. The clearing feels separate from the forest beyond. Stepping away gradually restores normal perception. Leaves rustle naturally. Birds sing. The wind resumes ordinary movement. The heartbeat fades. The nausea disappears. Yet the memory of the experience lingers, often recalled vividly long after leaving. Returning visitors describe consistent experiences. The shrine stands isolated and enduring. It exists beyond ordinary understanding, a site where natural laws appear suspended. The red stains, the heartbeat, and the physiological reaction form a pattern that is consistent, persistent, and unmistakable. Visitors leave the clearing changed. They carry with them the memory of sight, sound, and sensation. Even after days or weeks, recalling the shrine can evoke unease or awareness of an unseen presence. The experience is personal, subjective, and undeniable. Bloodroot Shrine remains hidden in the forest. Its stone platform sits unchanged beneath the canopy. The red stains persist, vivid and permanent. The air carries weight, and the heartbeat continues for those who enter. Nausea appears as if in response to the Stonia's presence, a subtle reminder that some places retain memory, influence, and mystery far longer than the living can explain. Hollow Drum Island sits isolated in a broad expanse of water, its shoreline low and marshy, dotted with reeds and jagged rocks. From a distance, the land appears calm, almost still, rising only slightly above the surrounding waves. At night, the island seems quiet, untouched, yet those who know the stories approach with caution. Long ago, the island served as a site of ritual. Communities from nearby shores traveled to Hollow Drum for ceremonies that lasted days. Central to these rituals was constant drumming, performed by groups who circled open spaces and stone platforms. The sound carried over the water, a rhythm that guided participants and observers alike, connecting the land, the people, and the elements. Over time, the rituals ceased. Settlements moved inland. Travel became less reliant on the old ways. The stone platforms remained, weathered and cracked. The paths leading to the island grew over. The first reports of the Islanda's return to sound came decades later. Fishermen passing the island at night described a soft, rhythmic vibration underfoot. At first, it was subtle, more a sensation than a sound. Boats would rock slightly as if the water itself responded to a pulse emanating from the island. The vibration was low, felt through feet and legs more than heard through ears. It resembled distant drumming, muted by soil and water, but perfectly timed and consistent. Attempts to locate a source revealed nothing. The soil and rock were solid. No visible drums, no machinery, no animals large enough to produce the sound. It seemed to rise from within the earth itself, as if the ground carried memory of long-forgotten rhythm. Observers noticed patterns. The vibration intensified at intervals, matching tempos that reminded some of traditional ceremonial beats. The intervals were precise, as if the island retained the structure of the original rituals. Those who listened closely described rising and falling intensity, crescendos that seemed to mark invisible gatherings. Boats near the center of the island reported amplification. The farther observers moved from the edge, the stronger the pulse became. Standing near stone platforms, the vibration could be felt in the chest. The sensation was not uncomfortable, but attention demanding. The mind could not ignore the underlying beat. Animals reacted differently. Birds fled the island before dusk. Fish moved away from shallow waters near the shoreline. Insects disappeared from reeds. The pulse seemed to influence living creatures. Subtle enough to avoid harm, but enough to cause avoidance. No weather condition altered the rhythm. Wind, rain, or calm did not change the pattern. The pulse persisted regardless of tides or temperature. Storms sometimes masked it with natural sound, but as soon as noise diminished, the beat returned, precise and unbroken. Those who spent the night reported unique experiences. Lying on the ground, participants felt the rhythm move through their bodies. Some described a hypnotic effect, a sensation of time stretching in alignment with the pulse. Dreams were vivid and structured, often mirroring movements of past ceremonies. Waking brought a lingering awareness of vibration underfoot, a connection to the land that remained after leaving. Local historians suggest memory is embedded in the soil. Generations of ceremonial drumming may have left an imprint, a form of resonance retained by stone and earth. The pulse could be interpreted as the continuation of energy, repeating itself each night without intervention. Others believe the island itself responds to attention. Observers influence the rhythm. Standing still allows the pulse to grow. Moving or speaking seems to interrupt it briefly, then it resumes. The island appears aware of presence, adapting the experience to those who engage with it. Despite its intensity, hollow drum does not harm. The pulse is subtle, low frequency, perceptible only through attention and proximity. Yet it leaves a profound impression, altering perception of the island and the surrounding water. Scientists, historians, and curious travelers approached cautiously. Each documented vibration, attempting to map its origin. Measurements confirmed the pulse was real, originating from the ground, but provided no clear source or mechanism. Its rhythm and consistency remained a mystery. By dawn, the island falls quiet. The pulse fades gradually, leaving only the natural sounds of wind, water, and birds. Marshes settle. The memory of rhythm remains in the minds of those who stayed to feel it. At dusk, the pulse returns. Softly at first, building in awareness, then steady and sure. Rises from beneath the surface, echoing the ceremonies of long ago. Vibrating through stone, soil, and water. Hollow Drum Island is alive with rhythm. It carries the sound of the past forward, undisturbed by time, impervious to modern understanding. The pulse calls to those who listen, inviting attention to a memory of constant drumming. And when night deepens, the island hums softly beneath the feet of anyone who ventures close. Steady. Measured. Endless. Fogcross Shrine rests atop a low ridge surrounded by dense forest. A place where morning mist gathers and lingers long after the sun rises. From a distance, the structure appears solid and well-defined, built from weathered timber and stone with carvings that suggest devotion and ritual. It sits in the center of a clearing, small but commanding, as if claiming attention without words. Approaching the shrine directly is said to be impossible. Those who attempt to walk straight toward it report that it fades gradually from view. At first, the edges blur, the carvings losing definition. The beams of timber seem to dissolve into mist. By the time a visitor reaches the center of the clearing, the shrine appears to have vanished entirely, leaving nothing but empty space and the low hum of wind through the trees. People who circle the shrine instead experience something different. Travelers who follow the perimeter of the clearing often notice subtle movement among the fog. Shapes emerge, indistinct at first, then slowly form into figures. They kneel or stand, bowed and silent, hands pressed together in gestures of prayer. The figures do not look at observers, their focus fixed entirely on the space where the shrine should be. It swirls gently, shaping itself around their forms without obscuring them completely. Movement is slow, deliberate, almost ritualistic. Observers describe a sensation of quiet attention, as if the figures are aware of the circling presence yet choose to ignore it. Sound behaves strangely in the clearing. Voices spoken near the perimeter seem to carry toward the figures, though no one responds. Footsteps sound muffled, as if absorbed by the fog itself. Some report hearing faint whispers, indiscernible yet rhythmic, blending with the ambient sounds of wind and rustling leaves. The shrine itself seems tied to this effect. Though unseen, it anchors the space. The fog responds to its absence, thickening where the shrine would stand, allowing figures to emerge along its imagined edges. It is as if the shrine exists in both presence and absence, visible only indirectly, understood only by circumnavigation rather than direct approach. Visitors who linger experience subtle physical effects. A sense of weightlessness in the legs, as if the clearing itself resists forward movement. A chill along the spine when glancing toward the center. A quiet pressure in the chest, not discomfort, but awareness. Many find that the fog grows heavier with each step, slowing thought and motion. The effect strengthens at certain times of day. Early morning and dusk produce the most vivid phenomena. Sunlight filtering through the mist highlights the praying figures and intensifies the sensation of being observed. On overcast days, the figures appear paler, their outlines shifting with the light, yet still distinct enough to suggest human form. Attempts to document the shrine directly have failed. Cameras focused straight on the center show nothing but fog and indistinct shapes. Photographs taken from the perimeter capture more detail, revealing faint outlines of figures and postures of prayer and the subtle shimmer of mist where the shrine is believed to exist. Video recordings confirm motion, but only when the observer circles the clearing rather than approaches directly. The effect appears to be consistent across multiple visits. Different observers report similar experiences. The shrine disappears when approached directly, figures emerge when circled, fog thickens and sound behaves unusually. Even those skeptical at first are often convinced by the repetition of these phenomena. Stories say the shrine was built to conceal itself from unworthy observers. Those who approach directly are denied sight, while those who move with caution and respect circling the sacred space are allowed glimpses of devotion. Those who approach directly are denied sight, while those who move with caution and respect circling the sacred space are allowed glimpses of devotion. The figures are believed to be spirits or guardians bound to the shrine and performing rituals that continue uninterrupted for decades or centuries. The figures are believed to be spirits or guardians bound to the shrine and performing rituals that continue uninterrupted for decades or centuries. The figures are believed to be spirits or guardians bound to the shrine and performing rituals that continue uninterrupted for decades or centuries. The shrine itself has never been physically altered. No damage, decay, or removal has been recorded despite its partial disappearance from direct view. Weather affects the clearing, and the surrounding forest changes with the seasons. Yet the shrine remains anchored in fog and perception, preserving the ritual space for all who circle it. Visitors report lasting impressions. Even after leaving the clearing, many feel the memory of being watched. The sense of figures bowing in silent prayer. And the subtle pull of the fog at the edges of awareness. Some describe a quiet longing to return. Drawn not by curiosity but by the intangible presence of devotion they witnessed indirectly. The figures never interact directly with observers. They do not speak, approach, or react aggressively. Their presence is calm, focused entirely on their own ritual. Observers report an almost reverent stillness, the kind that slows breathing and tempers movement. Encouraging careful observation without interference. Fog Cross Shrine remains unmarked and largely unknown. It is accessible only to those who follow forest paths and seek it intentionally. The fog shields it from casual view, allowing the phenomena to occur undisturbed and preserving the quiet interplay between space, mist, and the silent figures. It is a place where devotion persists beyond sight, where fog transforms absence into presence, and where silence carries intention. Those who leave the clearing often carry the experience with them. The memory of the praying figures, the thickened fog, and the disappearance of the shrine remains vivid. Some find themselves revisiting the location, circling the clearing again, compelled by the subtle guidance of what cannot be seen directly. At Fog Cross Shrine, presence is defined not by physical form. It exists in the interaction between observer, fog, and ritual. Approaching directly erases sight. Circling reveals devotion. The space itself becomes a living measure of respect, perception, and the quiet persistence of unseen guardians. Mudvale Island lies hidden within a broad river bend, its low banks often shrouded in mist and reeds. The water around it moves slowly, carrying silt and leaves, and the smell of damp earth is constant. A narrow channel leads to a small clearing where a shrine stands, simple in structure but undeniably present amidst the overgrown grass and scattered stones. The air around the shrine carries a scent of smoke. It is subtle at first, a faint tang in the wind, but persistent. Travelers report noticing it as soon as they approach the island, even after days of rain when any fire should have been extinguished. No smoke rises. No embers glow. Yet the air carries warmth of memory, as if a fire has burned recently. Ash appears on the altar. The Shrinia's central altar is worn and blackened, its surface scorched from long use. Even after heavy rain, ash can be found settled neatly in small piles, unwashed by water and untouched by wind. It lies on the stone as if placed deliberately, marking the altar without explanation. Observers describe a small, ghostly glow on the altar, flames that rise and dance yet give off no heat. The light is enough to illuminate the stone surface and reveal small inscriptions, but it offers no warmth or smell of burning wood. The shrine is old. Its stone is weathered and uneven. Moss grows along its edges. The altar shows decades, possibly centuries, of ritual use. Candles may have been lit here long ago, yet the persistent ash and flames suggest an ongoing presence independent of human hands. Those who linger describe a sense of being watched, not with hostility, but with attention. The flames are irregular. They rise and fall unpredictably. Sometimes they flare briefly, then shrink. At other times, they maintain a steady glow for minutes. Observers attempt to document them, yet cameras often fail to capture the flicker accurately, or the light appears weaker or stronger than in reality. The ash does not blow away. Even on windy days, it remains where it fell. Leaves and debris may scatter around it, but the piles of ash stay intact. No animal, human, or wind seems capable of disturbing it. Rain does not extinguish the light. Storms pass over Mudvale Island, drenching everything in water. Streams run down the altar and pool at its base. Yet the faint flames continue. They persist as though shielded by something invisible, unaffected by weather or time. Locals have long avoided the island. Stories warn of its lingering presence. People speak of the shrine as a place where the past continues to act upon the present. Fishermen give it a wide berth. Hunters cross to the opposite shore rather than approach. The air itself feels different, heavy and fragrant with smoke even before reaching the clearing. Those who approach report subtle changes. Steps feel heavier on the ground. Shadows lengthen unusually. Even the water at the bank seems thicker, as if slowing motion around the shrine. Some visitors describe a slight pull toward the altar, a compulsion to step closer despite caution. Animals behave strangely nearby. Birds avoid perching on the island after sunset. Fish do not rise to the surface near the banks. Insects are noticeably quiet, leaving an area of unnatural stillness around the shrine. The effect persists over time. Observers visiting the island on different days report the same phenomena. Ash is present. Flames flicker. The flames light themselves. Ash collects without hands. The scent of smoke drifts through the air, responding to no visible source. The atmosphere is immersive. Fog often gathers around Mudvale Island in the early morning or late evening. The air thickens. The altar and flames become clearer in contrast to the mist. Shadows kneel along the edges, silent and unmoving, giving the impression of ritual in progress. The island is isolated. Reaching it requires careful navigation. Boats must avoid shallow banks and submerged rocks. Once on the shore, the clearing is small and contained, giving observers limited space. The combination of isolation and phenomenon intensifies the sense of mystery. Mudvale Island remains unchanged. The shrine endures through seasons, storms, and time. The river continues to flow around it. The faint flames flicker nightly. Ash settles and persists. Smoke scents the air, connecting past rituals to present observation. Visitors leave with lasting impressions. The scent of smoke lingers long after they depart. Images of the altar and its flickering light remain vivid. The knowledge that something continues unseen, persistent, and independent of human action resonates deeply. The shrine at Mudvale Island is both a place and a presence. Ash appears. Flames flicker. Smoke drifts. Shadows kneel. And the river moves quietly around the island, bearing witness to phenomena that endure beyond explanation, beyond observation, and beyond the passing of time. Twin Spirit Isle rises quietly from a still lake, its surface reflecting the sky like dark glass. The island is small, densely wooded, and accessible only by narrow boats or careful wading through shallow water. At the center of the isle, two altars face each other. They are crafted from stone, carved with symbols whose meaning has been lost to time. Moss grows in the crevices, softening sharp edges and blending the structures with the forest floor. The wind moves strangely through the trees, carrying sounds that seem distant yet close, blending the natural with something unexplainable. It feels heavy and charged, different from the calm of the surrounding water. Then the voices begin. They are two in number, distinct and persistent. Each seems to emerge from one of the altars, calling insistently. Words are not clear. The language is unfamiliar, consonants and vowels shaped differently than anything heard before. The tones are forceful, rising and falling in argument, each voice claiming dominance over the space. They call for offerings. One demands one thing. The other demands something entirely different. Their calls overlap, interrupt, and challenge, creating a constant tension that fills the circle between the altars. It is impossible to focus on one without hearing the other, impossible to move without sensing the disagreement pressing against the ears. The altars stand empty. No figures appear. The voices belong to the space itself, emanating from stone and air, bound to the circle but untethered to form. Moving between the altars alters nothing. The argument continues with the same intensity, following visitors wherever they stand within the clearing. Some visitors step back instinctively. The tension grows with proximity. Standing directly between the altars creates a sensation of being caught in the argument, pulled toward both demands simultaneously. The forest beyond seems to retreat, fading into shadow and sound. Objects left on the ground are ignored. Branches, stones, or personal belongings remain undisturbed. The altars themselves accept nothing. No material offering is acknowledged. The voices demand, insist, but do not receive, reinforcing the sense of power without touch. The effect persists even in silence. Pausing movement does not pause the argument. Walking slowly or standing still is met with the same intensity. The rhythm of the debate is unbroken, steady, as if it has existed for centuries and will continue long after visitors leave. Sounds in the surrounding forest are subdued. Birds remain silent. Insects pause. Even the water surrounding the isle reflects no wind, its surface unnaturally smooth. The argument fills all attention, isolating the space and creating a sense of otherworldliness. Those who linger describe unease. Not fear, but disorientation. The insistence of the voices, coupled with their impossibility, makes time feel stretched. Minutes may pass unnoticed, the argument continuing uninterrupted, unyielding, relentless. Visitors report changes in perception. The altars may seem slightly taller, the clearing wider or narrower, the space itself bending subtly to contain the argument. Sounds from the lake appear to echo differently, reinforcing the sense that the isle exists outside normal measure. No visual manifestation accompanies the voices. No form or figure is ever seen. Hands extended toward the altars find only stone and moss. Yet the argument is undeniably present, occupying space in a way that feels tangible and persistent. Even departing does not immediately end the experience. Walking away from the clearing, the voices fade slowly rather than abruptly. Echoes linger across the water. The rhythm of disagreement seems to follow for several steps, leaving visitors aware that the isle has not released its claim entirely. Attempts to record the phenomenon fail. Audio devices capture faint tones, perhaps wind or water, but the clarity and insistence of the voices is lost. Playback reveals only the background forest, failing to convey the argumenta's presence. Local accounts suggest the altars were once active. Stories speak of rituals, offerings, and ceremonies conducted by priests who sought to honor the twin spirits. Visitors are advised to treat the isle with caution. It is not physically dangerous. No harm comes from stepping onto the isle. Yet the mental and emotional weight of the argument can be profound. Those unprepared may feel disoriented, overwhelmed, or subtly manipulated by the insistence of the voices. Twin Spirit Isle endures. The altars remain facing each other, unchanged by weather or time. Moss grows, stone weathers, and the forest slowly closes around the clearing. Arguments continue, demanding recognition and offering none. Those who approach hear them immediately. Two voices, in conflict, calling for different offerings. They fill the space, occupy attention, and resist understanding. They exist beyond human presence, beyond explanation, and beyond intervention. Visitors leave with the sense that the isle is alive. Not alive in flesh or bone, but alive in attention and insistence. The arguments persist, waiting for the next arrival to hear, to sense, to be caught in the space between the altars. The altars face each other still, the voices continue, and the island waits patiently in silence beyond the water, its arguments echoing through the forest for all who dare approach. Crooked Prayer Island rises abruptly from dark water, its rocky shore uneven and steep. Its rocky shore uneven and steep. The shrine at its center is built on a natural slope, its stone platform tilted sharply, leaning at an angle that defies conventional construction. From the shoreline, the structure seems unstable, yet it has endured decades of storms and erosion, standing where it was first placed. The shrine was once a place of devotion. Visitors from surrounding settlements would row across the water to kneel before the altar. Offerings were made in silence, prayers whispered into the wind. The angle of the stone platform was said to align with certain celestial markers, guiding participants in ritual focus and reflection. Over time, the island became largely abandoned. Travelers favored safer routes. Local populations shifted. Nature claimed paths and crevices. The shrine remained intact, its tilt a striking feature against the sky and water, hinting at purpose beyond simple craftsmanship. Modern visitors report unusual sensations. Those who kneel at the altar describe a subtle force drawing them forward. Not violent, but insistent, like a pressure in the chest or a gentle tug under the hands and knees. Like a pressure in the chest. Or a gentle tug under the hands and knees. People feel as though the shrine itself wants proximity, urging them closer to the altar's edge. The sensation is strongest during quiet hours. Dawn and dusk create conditions when wind and water are minimal. The absence of external motion amplifies the effect, making the pull more pronounced. Visitors often remark that they instinctively adjust posture to resist, yet feel simultaneously compelled to lean forward. To resist, yet feel simultaneously compelled to lean forward. simultaneously compelled to lean forward. Movement around the shrine does not disrupt it. Shifting weight, standing, or walking around the platform does not diminish the sensation. Those kneeling remain affected until they move away entirely. Leaving the shrine breaks the pull, but the memory lingers, a lingering awareness of something unseen asserting itself. The tilt is part of the experience. The angle of the stone platform exaggerates perception of instability. Even minor adjustments in stance create pronounced awareness of imbalance. Combined with the subtle pull, the effect is both physical and psychological. Observers often describe the feeling as disorienting yet purposeful. Birds rarely perch atop the platform. Small mammals avoid the immediate area. Fish and waterfowl near the shoreline react to movements of visitors in unusual ways, retreating when the pull intensifies. The environment seems attuned to the presence of kneeling humans. Calm days produce the clearest sensation of forward pull. Windy days mask it slightly, replacing subtle pressure with ambient noise. Rain and mist alter tactile perception, making the tilt and pull feel more dramatic. The shrine interacts with surroundings in a manner that heightens awareness of posture and movement. Psychological effects are common. Those who spend extended time at the shrine report heightened attention to balance and body position. Thoughts drift toward the altar, the edge of the platform, and the forward slope. Some describe vivid imagery of movement along the tilt or imagine descent toward the altar center. No physical mechanism explains the force. The stone is solid, no hidden machinery or incline beyond what is visible. The pull is not gravity alone. It is localized, affecting kneeling individuals without shifting objects or altering surroundings. Measurements of pressure and incline confirm the tilt, but nothing accounts for the subjective tug. Local lore offers interpretations. Some believe the shrine was designed to connect practitioners more deeply with the act of devotion. The angle forcing a surrender of body in alignment with spiritual intent. Others claim the island itself is alive, its rock and earth guiding attention and motion. A remnant of ancient understanding of place and ritual. Visitors often sense a presence. Not visible, not audible, but palpable. The force behind the pull is described as deliberate, attentive, and patient. Those who kneel long enough feel the effect intensify gradually, then fade as attention shifts away. Extended exposure is disorienting. Time seems to pass unevenly. The slope exaggerates minor movements. Returning to level ground can feel abrupt, as if leaving a different reality. Some visitors describe lingering awareness of the tilt long after leaving the island. The shrine does not require ritual to activate. Kneeling alone, in silence, is sufficient. Observers need not perform gestures or prayers. The act of yielding to posture alone engages the effect. Groups experience it collectively, each individual reporting similar sensations of being drawn forward. The path across water is treacherous. Rocks jut into the current. The shrine itself is exposed to wind and weather. Despite this, travelers are drawn by curiosity, seeking the unique experience the tilt provides. At the edge of dusk, when shadows lengthen and the water calms, the sensation is strongest. Kneeling on the tilted stone, the body responds instinctively. The mind perceives purpose behind the pull. Awareness sharpens. Balance and focus merge into a single experience, tied to the slope and the altar at the center. It challenges perception, posture, and attention. It compels kneeling, demands awareness, and rewards presence. The tilt is constant, the pull subtle but undeniable, and the island waits for those who approach to engage with its unnatural alignment. Each visit confirms the same truth. The shrine, leaning against the horizon, reaches for those who kneel. Invites approach without force, encouraging reverence without instruction. And in that silent, subtle pull, visitors understand the weight of purpose embedded in stone, earth, and air. Night Bell Island rises quietly from the water, a low mass of rock and scrub barely visible from a distance. Trees cling stubbornly to its uneven surface, twisted and sparse, their roots gripping cracks in stone as waves lap at the shoreline. The island is small, almost unassuming, yet it carries a presence that draws attention long before its details can be seen clearly. At the center of the island stands a solitary tree. A sturdy trunk and low branches mark it as older than any surrounding growth. Tied to one of its thick limbs hangs a small bell, bronze dulled by years of weather and salt spray. A simple cord loops around the limb, suspending the bell so that it sways freely. Yet curiously, it does not ring when the wind moves through the branches. Visitors to the island speak first of stillness. Even when waves crash gently against stone, there is a sense of quiet that settles across the clearing surrounding the tree. Birds seem hesitant to land. Insects hover briefly and disappear. Footsteps are absorbed into the earth. The bell hangs motionless, untouched by passing air. Then, on nights when no wind stirs, the bell rings. It is never more or less than 3 times. The first strike is soft, yet clear, echoing across the island. The second follows a beat later, the sound slightly longer, resonating in a way that suggests presence behind it. The third completes the sequence, lingering faintly, vibrating through the air and the ground beneath. No one has reported hearing the bell in less than 3 strikes or more than 3. Observers cannot find any cause. No hidden mechanism, no shifting branch, no wildlife capable of reaching the bell. The rope remains slack, swinging only when someone moves it deliberately. Yet when the night is still, the bell moves as if guided by invisible hands. The rhythm is consistent. 3 strikes, evenly spaced, each carrying a tonal quality that does not vary. Those who listen carefully can detect subtle changes, like echoes refracting through space, but the sequence itself is unwavering. It begins spontaneously, with no visible trigger. Many report a sense of awareness during the ringing. A feeling that attention is focused on those present, that the sound is not merely mechanical but deliberate. The vibration of the bell carries into the chest and ears, producing a heightened perception of the environment. The water, the trees, even the quiet rock seem to lean closer, as if listening along with the visitor. Some experience subtle physical effects. A chill passes through the body. Muscles tense without command. Eyes feel drawn toward the bell and its limb. The mind experiences a heightened anticipation for the following strikes. The effect is not frightening, but compelling, urging stillness and focus. Boats approaching the island at night describe a different impression. They notice the bell's sound before they see the tree. The first strike carries across the water, soft but perceptible even at a distance. The second and third echoes reach ears almost in perfect rhythm, as if timed precisely to guide observers toward the island. Some say the bell seems to announce their presence before they step ashore. No one has reported touching the bell accidentally during these occurrences. Those who attempt to move it report resistance that is impossible to measure. The cord does not tighten, yet the bell refuses to respond except when the wind ceases completely. Even strong currents of air caused by walking nearby have no effect. The bell only moves on windless nights. Fishermen and guides describe the bell as a sentinel. They believe it rings when the island senses stillness, marking presence, warning, or communicating something beyond ordinary perception. The 3 strikes are said to have meaning, though interpretations vary: a warning, a greeting, or acknowledgement of those who listen carefully. Repeated visits reveal consistent patterns. Observers always hear 3 strikes. They always report subtle attention in the air, a focus on presence rather than motion. The bell does not respond to mechanical interference. And it never rings during storms or breezy evenings. Some visitors choose to wait until the sequence occurs. They sit quietly, boats moored or anchored, absorbing the sound and the surrounding stillness. During these moments, the island feels larger, as if space itself has expanded to accommodate the bell and its resonance. Observers report heightened awareness, an unusual clarity of thought, and a subtle sense of connection with the environment. The effect continues after leaving the island. Those who have listened to the bell describe lingering impressions. Faint ringing seems to echo in memory. Heightened awareness persists for hours. Some describe a gentle anticipation, as if waiting for the bell to strike again even when miles away. No recordings fully capture the phenomenon. Audio devices can capture the sound, but they fail to replicate the subtle impact on presence and perception. Those who listen through recordings report the bell sounding ordinary, lacking the resonance and attention that accompanies direct experience. The shrine is small, yet commanding. The single tree and its bell dominate the space, anchoring perception. The island itself feels attentive, aware of motion and stillness alike. It does not threaten, but the sound carries a weight, a reminder that some places mark presence in ways beyond human understanding. Night Bell Island endures. The tree remains upright, the bell intact, the cord worn but resilient. The sequence of 3 strikes continues, dependent on the wind or its absence, unchanging in rhythm and tone. Visitors who approach with respect leave with awareness, those who ignore it find curiosity tempered by subtle unease. The shrine of whispering water, though small and simple, demonstrates the power of attention. Presence is acknowledged. Stillness is observed. The bell rings not for sound alone, but for those willing to listen. But for those willing to listen, 3 times, always 3. Echoing across water and rock, a quiet, unbroken rhythm. Marking a place where unseen forces continue their vigil. The shrine of sinking roots sits on a small island in the middle of a wide, slow-moving river. Its foundations are gnarled and overgrown, with tree roots winding through stone and soil as if the island itself is breathing. Each year, observers note subtle changes. The ground seems lower, the water lapping closer to the Shrinia's base, and the sense of weight in the air grows heavier. Visitors approach cautiously. The island appears solid at first, but as they step onto its soil, a peculiar heaviness presses against them. Breathing feels slightly more labored. Every step demands effort as if the ground itself resists movement. Even standing still produces a sensation of downward pull. The shrine is simple. Stone walls rise from the center of the island, weathered and moss-covered. A single altar rests inside, marked with carvings too worn to decipher fully. No roof remains intact. Time has left only the stone and the roots that cling to it. Water is never far from the base, always wetting the surrounding soil and adding to the island's sense of instability. The lowering is gradual. Long-time observers measure the change over months and years. The island sinks slowly, imperceptibly, almost as though it resists being noticed. Water encroaches further onto pathways. Trees that once stood upright now lean slightly, roots straining as if reaching for something beneath the Rivera's surface. The effect on visitors is profound. Some describe feeling drawn toward the ground, unable to resist the weight that seems to originate from the island itself. Steps are cautious. Conversations slow. Hands touch stone and roots instinctively for support. The longer they remain, the more aware they become of the subtle pull beneath their feet. The river behaves unusually around the island. Currents shift slightly closer to its shores, brushing against trees and rocks in ways that suggest intention. Water seems to follow the descent of the shrine, lapping higher each year. Boats passing nearby report a gentle but steady tug, as though the river itself is aware of the island's slow lowering. The roots play a central role. They twist and knot through stone and soil, anchoring the shrine while also seeming to pull downward. Some are exposed above the surface, long and thick, stretching across the island in complex patterns. Visitors often feel the weight of the roots beneath the soles of their feet, a tactile reminder that the ground is alive in a way that ordinary earth is not. Changes occur during heavy rain. The soil becomes soft and spongy. The shrine tilts imperceptibly. Water saturates the roots, enhancing the sense of heaviness. Those present report a stronger downward sensation, as if the island itself is trying to pull them under. The effect is slow but undeniable. The shrine is silent but active. No wind whistles through it. No wildlife interrupts the air. Yet the feeling of weight persists. Even when standing still, visitors perceive subtle vibrations, a hum of presence that originates from the stone and roots rather than the air. Observers report a unique visual effect. As the island lowers, tree trunks seem to stretch downward toward the water, branches following imperceptibly. Shadows elongate unnaturally along the surface of the shrine, and reflections in the surrounding river appear distorted, giving the impression that the island is sinking even faster than it actually is. Attempts to stabilize or mark the shrine have failed. Surveying equipment detects slight variations, but no construction or support has withstood the natural pull. The roots adjust, the soil shifts, and the island continues its slow descent year after year. Long-term visitors describe a growing respect. Standing on the shrine produces awareness of time and gravity in ways that are difficult to articulate. Movement is deliberate. Words are spoken softly, almost reverently. Even the act of leaving the island requires attention and care. The experience affects perception. Travelers report that water looks closer than it is. Rocks appear sharper. Paths seem steeper. The combination of weight and subtle movement creates a disorientation that fades only after leaving the island entirely. Animals are cautious near the shrine. Birds avoid roosting in low branches. Fish steer clear of shallow areas near the island. Even insects hesitate, leaving pockets of silence that amplify the sensation of presence. The island maintains a mysterious rhythm. Each year, the lowering continues, imperceptible in a single visit but undeniable over time. The effect is steady, relentless, and seemingly intentional. Those who observe over months or decades notice the cumulative change, a reminder that some forces operate beyond immediate perception. The shrine itself remains central. Stone and roots endure, holding their place against water and gravity. The carvings, altar, and remaining walls stand firm despite the encroaching river and shifting soil. They anchor the island while the surrounding earth continues its slow descent. Visitors leave altered. The sensation of weight lingers in memory, a physical reminder that the world can pull quietly and persistently. Images of roots and stone, tilted paths, and water rising closer remain vivid long after departing. The shrine of sinking roots continues to lower each year. Its stones hold fast, its roots twist and strain, and the river flows around it steadily. Yet anyone who steps onto the island feels the subtle, unrelenting force of the earth itself, a presence that demands respect, patience, and awareness. Those who return know the pattern. The island is patient. The shrine is steadfast. The roots pull, the earth sinks, and the river observes. Every year, the cycle repeats, and visitors feel it again, heavy and inexorable, a reminder that some places shape not only the landscape but the very body and perception of those who enter. Ghostwakow rises quietly from a misted lake. Its shoreline barely visible through the low-hanging fog. The water laps gently at the edges, carrying the faint scent of wet earth and decaying leaves. Trees grow close to the shore, their roots twisting into the soil, half submerged and slick with moisture. At the center of the isle lies a shrine. It is small, crafted from stone and weathered wood, its surface darkened by years of rain and wind. Moss and lichen cling to the edges, softening lines and blending it with the forest floor. The shrine is simple, yet carries an unmistakable presence, as if the space itself is charged by something unseen. Visitors notice footprints first. They appear in the wet soil surrounding the shrine. Clear and defined, the impressions form a circle, each step precise, following the next with perfect spacing. The soil shows no signs of disturbance beyond the footprints themselves. Leaves remain intact, twigs unbroken. The footprints never lead away. They circle the shrine endlessly, turning back toward themselves, forming loops that repeat with quiet persistence. Even when the soil dries, faint impressions remain, suggesting the path is constant and unbroken over time. No source is ever seen. Those who follow the circle find no person, animal, or mechanism responsible. The air holds no scent of smoke or fire. No shadow moves in coordination with the prints. The presence feels implied rather than visible, tied to the pattern of the footprints themselves. The effect is amplified in wet conditions. After rainfall, the impressions appear almost immediately, fresh and defined. Visitors describe a sensation of anticipation, as if the soil knows they have arrived and prepares to mark them in return. Walking near the circle creates a subtle tension, a quiet awareness that the space is observing. The circle of footprints grows with time. Some visitors have returned days later to find the same impressions, larger in number, extending outward slightly yet always maintaining the endless rotation around the shrine. The pattern adapts without losing symmetry, suggesting a purpose beyond human design. No noise accompanies the movement. No dragging, no splashing, no creaking. The shrine itself remains unchanged. Stone is smooth but weathered. Wood holds firm, darkened by moisture. No offerings remain, no objects have been placed. The footprints alone signify the activity, giving life to a space otherwise still. Observers describe a sense of being watched. Not by a single entity, but by the pattern itself. Every step taken inside the circle is mirrored in the surrounding impressions. As the minutes stretch and compress unpredictably. Standing within the circle, visitors report difficulty judging how long they have been there. The endless rotation of footprints reinforces the impression that time itself is contained, looping like the path around the shrine. Footprints continue regardless of human presence. Some who return to the aisle after weeks or months find new impressions, fresh and crisp, appearing in the same endless pattern. The circle persists even without observers, suggesting the shrine and soil act independently of human attention. The experience affects perception. Walking alongside the circle, visitors often feel compelled to pause or adjust their path. Turning suddenly to inspect the prints can cause disorientation, a subtle sense that the circle reacts to awareness. Looking away and returning restores clarity, but the presence of the footprints remains undeniable. Local knowledge is sparse. Few know the location of Ghostwake Isle. Those who do speak quietly, advising visitors to respect the pattern and avoid disturbing the soil. Legends mention rituals long forgotten, but details are unclear, and no historical records explain the endless circle. Attempts to document the footprints are limited. Photography captures only the impressions, never the movement that creates them. Video shows stillness and occasional ripples of water but fails to reproduce the sensation of the circle's presence. The experience exists primarily in direct observation. The shrine, footprints, and island form a unified environment. Stone, wood, and soil interact to create a space where time and motion are recorded and repeated endlessly. Visitors leave cautiously. Stepping back toward the shore, the forest and lake resume normal sounds. Mist drifts, water laps softly, birds call from distant trees. The impressions remain, waiting for the next presence to enter and add to the circle. Looking back, the shrine appears calm. No figure, no movement, only the stone and wood surrounded by wet soil marked by footprints that trace themselves eternally. The endless rotation continues, a quiet reminder that some places hold memory, motion, and vigilance beyond human understanding. Ghost Wake Island endures. The shrine remains at its center, the footprints circle endlessly, and the soil retains the mark of movement that never ceases. Every visitor senses the pattern, the persistence, and the inexplicable continuity of a presence that is unseen yet undeniable. The shrine remains at its center, the footprints circle endlessly, and the soil retains the mark of movement that never ceases. Every visitor senses the pattern, the persistence, and the inexplicable continuity of a presence that is unseen yet undeniable. Ghost Wake Island endures. Black Offering Shrine sits on a low, rocky point surrounded by slow-moving water. Its foundation is stone, weathered and darkened by years of wind and salt. The structure was built generations ago as a protective site, a place where local communities offered guidance and devotion to safeguard their lands and waters. For centuries, the site served its intended purpose. Boats passed safely by the point. Fishing and trade routes followed predictable patterns. Hunters and travelers reported feeling secure in its presence. Local belief held that offerings placed at the shrine brought protection, creating a boundary between the known and the unpredictable. Over time, the area became quieter. Communities shifted, trade routes changed, and the shrine was left largely to nature. Stones cracked under wind and rain. Grass and small shrubs crept between the foundation rocks. The altar remained intact, though untended. The protective power of the site passed into memory. Then the first signs appeared. Animals that once grazed near the point no longer ventured close. Boaters noticed a different effect. Animals that had nested along the rocky shore abandoned the area entirely. Small mammals avoided the undergrowth. Even fish seemed to hesitate in shallow waters surrounding the shrine. The space became increasingly silent, a zone of avoidance for living creatures. Passing near the shrine, engines would sputter or stall unexpectedly. Propellers would hesitate in the current. Electronic equipment sometimes malfunctioned. The phenomena were brief but unmistakable, as if the shrine exerted influence over movement and machinery nearby. Captains who experienced this found the effect unnerving, compelling them to give the shrine a wide berth. Those who landed described a peculiar sensation. The air around the shrine feels heavy. The wind slows near the altar. Sounds become muted, distant. Observers feel a subtle pressure on the chest. Not painful, but insistently perceptible. Standing too long can create a sense of disorientation. As if the site itself draws attention inward, focused on the visitor. Attempts to measure the effect revealed anomalies. Scientific instruments detect subtle variations in magnetic and electric fields near the shrine. The ground remains solid, with no discernible machinery or hidden devices. The disturbances are localized, concentrated around the altar and diminishing with distance. Nothing fully accounts for the behavior of boats, animals, or perception. The influence seems tied to the altar itself. Those who step closer feel the most pronounced effects. Pressure increases. Sounds fade further. Boat engines respond more noticeably if passing within a narrow range of the shrine. The surrounding environment reacts as though the site maintains a zone of control, protective and insistent. Local stories offer explanations. Many believe the shrine is alive with the intent of generations past. Offerings placed long ago left an imprint of protection that continues to manifest. Some claim that the spirits invoked to guard the land remain vigilant, discouraging intrusion and ensuring the shrina's sanctity is respected. Visitors report a growing awareness of something beyond sight. Movement of water, shifting wind, and faint vibrations are perceived in ways that seem deliberate rather than random. Observers feel guided to remain distant, to avoid disturbing the space. The shrine does not harm directly. The effects are subtle, psychological, and environmental. No life is taken, no structure destroyed. Yet animals, boats, and even the sense of safety respond, as if the site enforces boundaries quietly but effectively. Respect is demanded without confrontation. Time behaves strangely near the altar. Observers often lose track of hours. Light and shadow seem altered by the weight of attention. Sounds from outside the zone are delayed or muffled. Those who remain too long describe heightened focus on the shrine and its altar, as if the land itself encourages contemplation or vigilance. Visitors who remain overnight report unusual dreams. The imagery often reflects the shrine, the surrounding water, and the animals that once occupied the area. Movement is distorted, boundaries appear shifted, and awareness of distance becomes unreliable. Waking brings immediate recognition of the Shrinia's continuing presence and influence. The effect is consistent across generations. Those who return at different times report the same pull on perception, the same avoidance by animals, and the same difficulties for boats. The Shrinia's influence does not diminish with age or exposure. It is constant, subtle, and undeniable. The altar, simple and dark, remains intact. Its stones are worn but solid. Moss and lichen cover its base. The structure itself does not change, yet its effect persists. It marks a boundary both physical and unseen, separating ordinary passage from the sacred influence that remains. Black Offering Shrine continues to guard the point. Animals avoid it. Boats hesitate. The air is heavier. Sound is muted. Visitors feel the weight of attention and the subtle pull of purpose. It does not chase, it does not strike, yet its presence is absolute. The shrine holds the memory of protection. Generations of devotion, of offerings and intent, linger in stone and soil. Its influence is persistent, environmental, and perceptible to those who venture near. The island stands quietly, a sentinel of the past, enforcing boundaries without violence. Guiding those who pass to respect the space, and continuing its purpose centuries after the last offerings were placed. Stillwater Isle rises from the heart of a sprawling swamp, a small patch of solid ground surrounded by slow, dark water. The trees are gnarled and dense, their roots reaching into the murky depths, their leaves forming a canopy that blocks much of the sun. The air is heavy with moisture, the scent of earth and decay mingling with the faint tang of water. Moss drapes from branches, swaying gently even when the wind is absent, giving the landscape a sense of quiet movement. At the center of the isle lies a shrine. Constructed of weathered timber and stone, it is small but precise, its architecture simple and deliberate. Carvings decorate the posts, symbols whose meaning is lost to time, worn smooth by rain and age. Bowls and vessels rest along the edges, holding offerings left by those who ventured here long ago. The shrine is unassuming in daylight, yet its presence dominates the swamp, drawing attention in a way that feels instinctual rather than conscious. Visitors immediately notice the silence. Unlike the surrounding swamp, where insects hum and frogs croak without pause, the area around the shrine is still. Air feels dense and motionless. No birds land nearby. Even water seems restrained, waves reduced to the faintest ripple against roots and logs. The quiet is absolute, unusual enough to create an awareness that is both calming and unsettling. Those who linger feel an unnatural calm. The effect is subtle at first. Breathing slows. Muscles relax without effort. Thoughts become clearer, yet strangely lighter. Stress and urgency seem to dissipate, replaced by an almost overwhelming sense of peace. The calm soon becomes all-consuming. Visitors find themselves standing in place. Sitting feels natural. Lying down appears entirely reasonable. The longer they remain, the more tempting it becomes to stop moving entirely. To give themselves over to the stillness of the swamp. The surrounding life seems to vanish further. Insects retreat completely. Frogs are silent. Even fish avoid the shallows near the isle. Trees sway minimally, shadows deepen without distortion, and the water holds a mirror-like surface. The environment itself enforces quiet and stillness, reinforcing the visitor's internal experience. Some who have stayed describe the sensation as irresistible. They feel drawn into the calm, their body responding more strongly than their mind. Thoughts of departure fade. Motivation to move, eat, or speak diminishes. The body relaxes to a point of surrender. And some sit or lie down on the moss-covered ground, unaware of how long they have remained. Historically, those who lingered too long rarely returned. Local tales recount people found months later, if at all, in the surrounding swamp, resting or hidden among vegetation. The shrine itself remains undisturbed. No evidence of struggle. No signs of violence. Just absence. Those who leave intact records speak of being compelled by the calm rather than threatened or attacked. The shrine is deliberately difficult to approach. Paths leading to the isle are narrow and treacherous. Water channels shift with the seasons. Dense vegetation obscures sightlines. Visitors report a subtle reluctance in the air, a weight that discourages entry, encouraging respect and caution. Few venture near without preparation and intention. Sound behaves unnaturally. Even speech is altered. Whispered words seem muted, their resonance dulled by the pervasive stillness. Calls carry less than expected. Echoes do not return. Movement across the swamp produces no sound, yet the environment communicates its presence, a silent authority felt through weight and space rather than through conventional cues. Those who approach during evening report heightened effects. The calm intensifies. Minutes stretch, then collapse, leaving observers disoriented yet serene. Offerings continue to appear at the shrine. Though rarely tended, bowls hold small items, stones, shells, or tokens left by modern visitors drawn by stories and curiosity. These offerings seem untouched, preserved by the surrounding stillness. Their presence does not disrupt the calm but appears to reinforce it, as if the shrine acknowledges intention and respect. Researchers have attempted to explain the phenomenon. Environmental studies suggest that dense vegetation, water, and topography can create pockets of reduced sound and airflow. While these factors account for some of the quiet, they do not explain the profound sense of calm and the near-compulsive stillness experienced by visitors. The effect is consistent, replicable, and psychologically distinct from ordinary silence. Night brings a final layer of intensity. Moonlight reflecting on water makes the swamp appear otherworldly. Shadows grow deeper. Any movement feels magnified against the mirror-like surface. The calm reaches its peak, compelling vigilance against inactivity while simultaneously encouraging surrender. Observers speak of a paradoxical experience, alertness intertwined with immobility, focus entwined with deep relaxation. The shrine remains intact and undisturbed. Stone and timber weather naturally, but the structure resists collapse. The swamp continues to encroach around it, slowly expanding the waterline. Yet the shrine maintains its presence, anchored both physically and through the enduring ritual left by generations. Those who leave the isle carry lasting impressions. The memory of profound stillness lingers, a sensation difficult to articulate. Visitors describe heightened awareness of quiet spaces elsewhere, subtle attentiveness to environmental cues, and occasional flashes of the same calm felt on arrival. Few can explain why the shrine affects them so deeply, yet they acknowledge its impact. Stillwater Isle, and its shrine, remain a place of quiet authority. The swamp itself enforces respect. The bell of calm is struck without sound, compelling attention, stillness, and reflection. Presence is acknowledged by the environment and by the shrine itself, offering peace that is profound and total. Those who linger too long risk surrendering completely to this calm, leaving behind a world that continues in motion while they remain within the still embrace of the isle. You have now drifted past 20 haunted Bayou Island shrines in Louisiana. Places shaped by belief, fear, and the unseen. Where prayers were offered and sometimes answered. These islands may seem peaceful in daylight. Quiet. Forgotten. But when night falls, the bayou awakens. The water remembers. And the spirits move freely between the trees and mist. If you ever travel through the bayou, respect what you find. Do not disturb old shrines. Do not take offerings. And never assume silence means safety. Thank you for spending this haunting journey with me. Slow your breathing. Let the fog drift from your thoughts. And if you see a candle flicker somewhere across the water tonight, remember. Not every light is meant to guide you home. Until our next journey into the darkness. Stay safe.